Guys, welcome to Burnout Brighter. This is episode 146, and we are here with Dr. Amelia, and I'm going to say your last name wrong, so please, can you say it for me? Because I do not want to mess that up.
It's Herbst. If we want to get fancy, we can do the German saying, which is Herbst, but I don't expect anyone to ever remember that, ever. So Herbst is fine.
All right, awesome. So we're here with
Herbst.
Dr. Amelia Herbst.
Got it.
I'm
Just practicing.
Okay. I think we're just going to call her Dr. Amelia or Amelia. What would you like to be called?
You can call me Amelia. That's fine.
Dr. Herbst. I'm going to do this. I'm going to
Okay, do it.
Oh
Do
my
it.
God, you're so dumb. All right. So, guys, we're super excited. We were supposed to have Amelia on a couple of months ago, but you know how life gets. It gets really crazy. But I'm super excited because you've decided to come on with us today. And we've been working everything out and getting our schedule together. So my words you know what? It's early for me, and it shouldn't be early for me. Let me just explain what happened this morning, right? Matt is watching this whole fire just happen. Okay, listen. So today at 5 a.m., I got up because I needed to go to the bathroom or whatever. And so as I'm coming back, shut up. And so as I'm coming back to my bed, I see this black thing, and I don't know what it is, but then it moves really fast, and I freak out because it's obviously a spider, and it runs under my bed, right? So Matt, if you don't stop, okay. So I freak out because it runs under my bed, and I hate spiders. So I'm talking to my roommate, who's in Scotland, by the way, because she's on vacation, and I'm I'm gonna get the cat and I'm gonna throw it under the bed and see if it'll get the spider.
Oh, jeez.
I'm so freaked. So the thing is that anytime I open my door, our cat Weasley, which is named after the Weasleys in Harry Potter, usually runs under my bed, right? This time I bring him in my room and I'm like, all right, Weasley, go under the bed. And he's like, nah, I'm just going to chill by your stool. So he wouldn't do it. So I had to go and get his kitty snacks. And then I got his kitty snacks and I threw the kitty snacks under the bed so he would go under the bed and kill whatever it was. I don't know if he killed it. I'm hoping he did. I'm super paranoid because I have to pay attention to the camera and I don't want anything to run across my feet or anything. I have on shoes, but I really hate spiders. You're so, you know what? I'm going to be so polite because you are making me want to snap on you.
I just flashed back. Have you seen that New Girl episode where they see a spider in the apartment and they have to do a whole spider hunt and they basically end up destroying the entire apartment looking for the spider? That's what I'm picturing you and Weasley going through.
No, I didn't because I'm afraid. Okay, I know not all spiders jump, but I have this irrational fear that whichever spider comes across me will jump on my face. So I just vacate the premises. So I was out in the living room for a long time, but now I'm in my bedroom again. So I'm a little paranoid. And I can't bring the cat in here because it gets really loud. But anyways, so I didn't go back to sleep after that, which is why I'm tired. Because I've just been up, right? Afraid that the spider was going to get me. But anyways, that's why my introduction was a little shitty. And I'm super sorry for that. But thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you making time for us. But before we start, we're going to check in with everybody and kind of see what they've been doing, what they've been up to, how they're feeling. And since you are a guest, we're going to start with you. How have you been? What have you been up to?
Well, I just got back from vacation, which is something that is kind of rare for us in the mental health field to take for some reason. Even though it shouldn't be that rare. So it was kind of one of those things that I was yes, I am successfully at a point in my life in which I can finally take care of myself. And it was a beautiful moment. But I need to drive into the office through Seattle rush hour traffic on Monday. So I'm trying to remind myself that I had a week where it was okay.
Right.
But it was nice. Over here in Washington State, we have a bunch of little islands that have their own culture. The one that I stayed at was Whidbey, where a friend has called it Wine Island because there's a bunch of wineries and honestly coffee shops and small restaurants. It's beautiful. It's a nice way to get away. And so now I'm today on Sunday, I'm going to settle back into the rest of my life, which honestly, I love my job. So I really can't complain too much, but it's still, there's a difference between doing nothing to having to do something, even if it's something that I like, you know?
Right, right.
I did not know Washington had islands. That's something new I learned today.
We do. We've got the beautiful Sound, which kind of separates the rest of Washington from the peninsula. And in the middle of the Sound, there's a bunch of islands. It's very nice.
That's so cool. I did not know that. I learned something new. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did too. I didn't know that there were a bunch of islands over there either. I know that there's a bunch of islands off the south, like the East Coast, but that's because I live over here. So, but no, that sounds like incredible. And I wanted to point out that, like, even at like working in the field that you work with, like mental health and things like that, you also have to take time to take care of your own mental health and take a break and use self care. So I'm really glad that you were able to do that. Um, and now we're going to mosey over to Matt and see what he's been up to, I guess.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. I didn't get introduced this week. I'm going to roll
You
past that.
didn't. That literally because I
Just going to
just
sit here in
explained
sadness.
what my morning was
No,
like.
it's
Don't
fine.
start with me.
No, it's fine.
Anyways, go ahead.
Everything's fine. As for myself, well, Destiny and I had a fun time on Friday streaming the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, Shredder's Revenge. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Xbox Canada, who hooked us up with both with Game Pass code, so we were able to hop in and play that together. It was a ton of fun. We played it start to finish and finished the entire game in probably, around 2-ish hours, D?
I think around 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blast. We had a lot of fun with it. Like the animations are awesome. I was obviously Leonardo, and it was a blast. We really enjoyed our time with the game. The animations are sick. The music is fantastic. Dee and I were like weirdly in sync, where we kept saying the same thing at the same time. Like we'd both be like, "This song is awesome!" Like completely unprompted. Like it would be quiet because we'd be just be kicking butt, and at the same time we'd be like, "Wow, this music! Oh my god, this song!" We were just completely linked up, D. I don't know. We were just
I think
completely in
it's just
sync.
because it was such a good game. Like, and I feel like probably if we had played with anybody else, like we probably would have had the same kind of reaction at the same time, especially if
I
you're
don't
a
think so.
huge fan.
No.
Okay.
We're
Especially if
just
you're a
special.
huge, oh God, especially if you're a huge fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He is like, I don't know, today he's like so bad. But especially if you're a huge fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think it like really pulled on like my nostalgia
Mhm.
strings. I remember playing the very first one on NES, and it had a lot of the same feel. Plus, the game just felt good. It felt
Yeah.
really good, and you could tell. Like I think we talked about it a little bit on the stream that the people who worked on it, you could tell like they really loved what they were working on, and it was a bit of a passion project, which was awesome. But other than
100%.
that, Matt, was that it? Is that all you've been
No.
into?
No,
Okay.
I've also been obsessed with Neon White. That just came out this past week as well. For anybody unaware, it's like almost like a speed. It's a game meant for like speedrunning. I'm not a speedrunner. I don't do that kind of stuff. But it's like the style of the game was like super cool, and I love stuff like Super Hot and Ghost Runner. And this is basically like Ghost Runner meets Persona. The characters are like basically like you're competing to get into heaven. So you're out there like killing demons. There's a bunch of levels, and like again, like I'm getting silvers and golds without like really taking more than like a couple runs at it. It's like it feels really satisfying to like get through the level, and like you can go back in and find presents for your friends, and you can go hang out with your friends and give them presents. I'm having a blast with it. It's so much fun. The music is fantastic. I just did my first boss battle, which was a trip because I wasn't expecting a boss battle in a game like that. So if anybody's curious, check it out because it's awesome. And I've recently become obsessed with What We Do in the Shadows. I have never watched it before, but I watched Our
It's a
Flag
good
Means Death.
show.
So good. I watched Our Flag Means Death, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop into What We Do in the Shadows, and I am loving it. It is so ridiculous and so stupid in the best way possible. Like the
Amazing.
humor, it's just so good. It's so good. So I'm like halfway through season 2 now and having a blast with it. The couple episodes, like the one where the main guy tries to go and get his U.S. citizenship is just incredible. Like, there's just so many moments. Like, I've been messaging Darren, and I've been like, "Oh my god, this! Oh my god, this!" Like, it's hilarious. I'm absolutely loving it. Now I'm like definitely gonna check out the movie as well because I haven't actually watched the movie before. I just kind of picked this up on a whim, but I've been loving it. It's awesome. If you're curious at all, if you're looking for like, it's like a documentary style show, but about vampires living in New York. It's incredible. Go check it out. But what about you, Dee? What's new? What's been going on?
So I just finished a series. I kind of like blew through it called Shrill on Hulu. It's about this girl, and this is not to be mean, but she's like big, like she's a bigger girl, and so it's kind of like dealing with like the things that she's going through and like self-reflection on how she feels about herself and how the world views her. And it's kind of like comedy slash drama. It's good, but then I think at some point she starts to irritate me, but that happens with a lot of shows. So
And people.
I and people, yes. Yeah, some people. But I finished that, so that was good. I am excited to see if they're going to do another season of it. Um, we already talked about playing some TMT. I lost my world on Minecraft when they did the big update and was super pissed off. Which sounds really, I don't know. Like usually you hear about kids getting pissed off. We haven't even done that much, but I collected I had like all these pets, like these little dogs and cats, and I just collected all these adorable axolotls in the game. And then when I went to play, because I hadn't played it in a while, and I play it with a friend because I pay for Minecraft Realms. So then when we went back, it kept giving us this error, like it's not ready yet or something like that. And so when we finally got into the world, we were in a completely different world. So they had just like wiped
No.
everything. Yeah, I was really, really angry. And I think that's the only time I like rage quit things is like when something happens and I can't go back or I lose a bunch of stuff and then I'm just like, I
Yeah.
don't want to play anymore. But my
Yeah.
friend was like, no, we got to keep playing. So I made a new world and we actually found like the Forbidden Realm, which I don't know how we found that so fast, but that was scary because literally you go down in this cavern because I was like digging and I was like, oh, like I found this cavern, we can get a bunch of resources and stuff, and like we kept going down and within the cavern there was like another cavern, and so we went down and there are these sensors in the like Forbidden Realm. I'm probably saying it wrong, but they call force like the Warden, which is like a new entity in the game that you have to fight. But it's so freaky because you can hear him and there's like roaring and then like the screen starts blacking out, right? And this is the first time I've ever experienced anything like that in Minecraft. So like there's no music, you just hear him and you just hear like the audio of him like screaming, and then everything starts kind of shaking and then it's like pulsating and the screen goes black and kind of lights back up, but it keeps going and then it gets faster and faster because you know he's coming. I
Oh,
lost my
jeez.
shit. Yeah, no, I was
That sounds
not.
terrifying.
It was terrifying, especially because that's never been in the game before. So I just, we decided not to do that and scurried back up to the top. So when we do decide to fight that, I think I'm gonna record it because my friend was like, we should definitely record it because we're probably gonna die a million times.
Dee, I have a question about your
Yeah,
Minecraft time.
yeah,
Have you built a friendship bridge yet? And if you haven't, do you want me to join your server and help build a friendship bridge?
absolutely not, absolutely
Wow.
not. And
Wow.
um, Amelia, you would understand if we had pictures of this friendship bridge that he
I
decided to
worked
build
very
with
hard.
someone else. But nobody asked you to do that. So you just worked very
I
hard on. Have you ever? Okay,
friendship.
I don't know if you've ever played the game with like other people and you expect them to take the game seriously and all they do is fuck around the entire time and build
Oh,
the
yeah.
ugliest things. That is Matt. That is
I
Matt. I
built
will.
a giant bridge of friendship. It was multicolored. It had our initials on it. It went from their beautiful area to the crappy one they gave us. And it was a giant friendship
First of all,
bridge.
we didn't give them a crappy area. We all started in the same area, and then you went off and did some stupid shit, and then it was horrible. They poured lava over this weird tower that they decided to build and just destroyed their area. So stop. Don't have these people listening, and don't have
Friendship
Amelia thinking that we did
bridge.
that to you. This is terrible. So, and I played some more V Rising
Nice.
last night, but then I realized it's a lot scarier. There was like this massive tree monster that I didn't realize. Yeah, there was a massive tree monster in the game. So I was like cutting wood, and then he came after me, and his health. His HP is ridiculous. So I was like, oh, I'll try to fight him because maybe it's like fighting the bear. Absolutely not. Like I swung at him and it took off like 2 HP, and I was like, oh my god, okay, mistakes have been made, and I have regrets. But that's all I've been up to, which seems like a lot, but a lot of it consisted of me sitting on my ass, so it doesn't feel like it was a lot. But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Friendship. Bridges.
Whatever.
Sometimes those things are together
No.
and not appreciated.
But anyways, moving on. Amelia, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, I know we weren't able to get you on for our mental health series, but like we talk about mental health in every one of our series. It's really, really important to us. And I am going to ask you a question at the end of this. That we kind of use it to tie back to it, but like I won't give you any hints because I kind of want to put you on the spot just a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit about you, how you got started in the field? And I think I've never asked this before, but why do you love it so much? Like, what does it give to you?
That's fair. So my journey is actually kind of a long and complicated one because you're going to see where I start off and it's kind of going to make sense where I ended up, but maybe not at the same time. So as we're going to kind of have story time for a hot second in the
We love story time. Go ahead.
in the not so distant past, I was suddenly made aware that there are really bad people in the world. / there are people that might be more complicated that do really bad stuff. And I was like, wow, why do these people do these things? And then suddenly in high school, I'm like, I want to be a criminal psychologist. So that's kind of how this all got started. Like, the brain, and then, people, why do you do what you do, kind of a thing. So I went to school and I majored in psychology and minored in criminal justice. And with some time, I ended up thinking, this is complicated, but I really want to know like the super complicated niches. So one of the things that I actually focused on was teenagers that engaged in interpersonal violence. So we're thinking school shootings, we're thinking kiddos that do bullying, we're thinking about like that spectrum, from the not so minor because bullying's bad, don't do it, to the like really major stuff.
Right.
So with some time, I ended up working in a residential treatment facility. I was working with teenage boys. And then I got so burnt out pretty quickly because as much as I loved them and I loved working with them, it was so hard to watch them leave after spending months with us and after them feeling protected and safe and knowing that people cared about them, to going home or to going into the foster care system or to going to juvie because I had to serve out a sentence, to come right back or to end up in juvie long term or to end up becoming an adult and getting into the adult system. And I was like, this sucks. I don't like this at all. But one of the things that we did together was play video games. One of the ways teenage boys are more likely to talk about their emotions is if you have them engaged in an activity like playing Magic or Minecraft. And then we decided at another residential treatment facility that I went to, D&D came in through a client of mine. This was when I was a therapist. And then getting those kids together to play D&D, we noticed that they were more likely to actually express what their needs were in the moment when they were playing characters and then when they weren't themselves. So I was like, this is amazing. This is such a cool idea. And then I went onto the Twitterverse and went, aha, I have this idea about using D&D in therapy. And then there's a bunch of people that are like, oh yeah, people do that already. Here they are. I was like, but cool. So at this point, I'm already in my doctoral program because I continued my path on the I will eventually be a criminal psychologist mindset. And then after finding D&D and finding video games and therapy, I was just kind of like, this is actually a lot more fun. And I think that this is not going to make me hate coming home at the end of the day, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I got connected with Game to Grow. I got connected with Dr. Megan Connell of Geeks Like Us. I got connected with Dr. B from Take This, and just kind of created this amazing network of folks that supported the fact that like there's somebody else that was coming into it, as they were as well like growing their own training programs and kind of reaching their influence out to other people.
Right.
So that's kind of how I ended up where I am. So what do I do right now? I work for Game to Grow, which is awesome. Not something I ever thought I was going to do. And I do two things. I am a therapeutic game master, so I use Dungeons and Dragons in therapy. And then I am also an individual therapist. But I see everyone, but people typically tend to seek me out because I like video games. So like, for instance, I have a client that vetted Game to Grow, then reached out to us looking for one of us because we weren't going to judge them for coming home at the end of the day and playing 3 hours of Destiny. Or I've got a kiddo that his school counselor ended up finding me. And she's like, this is a kid that needs someone to speak his language. And so far, none of the therapists or none of his supports do speak his language. And his language is
Okay.
Minecraft and Fortnite and connecting with his friends at the end of the day through that. So that's kind of where I am right now. And I think to kind of answer your question, why do I love it? I love it because I'm watching all of these folks trusting someone right off the bat because they understand that I speak their language. I understand the culture that they're coming from. I too play a lot of it. So if somebody's like, okay, this is going to sound dumb because I'm someone in my 30s, but I just attempted to run trials last night in Destiny and I kept dying, to which I went, I get it. Were you able to step away after like an hour or two to give yourself a break? No, I didn't. And I thought about you and it's just, I tried. And then I decided to quit. I'm like, are you going to try again today? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you'll get it now, you know, or to
Mhm.
have a kid that's like, I hate you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Did you see the new Pokemon game? Yes. Do you want to tell me your thoughts on it? No. Okay. All right, so I watched the trailer about 3 times and this is what I think is going to happen. And I'm like, all right, tell me about it. You know,
Nice.
it's so much more fulfilling than anything I possibly thought I could do.
That's amazing. Like really and truly. And like something that I kind of want to give you kudos to before we kind of really dive into Game to Grow and to the work that you do is that I also I double majored in psychology and criminology, and my initial plan was to go into forensic psych. And then it was a combination of a prof that I had that like I really connected with that told me, he was like, don't do it. He's like, don't do it. And like, and similarly for I was never 100% sure that I'd be able to leave it at work without bringing it home with me every day. So like I like kudos to you for recognizing that and kind of understanding that, you know, you maybe needed to pivot a little bit and go in a bit of a different direction, because that takes a lot of interpersonal strength. So congratulations for, you know, the successful path that you find yourself in, and for recognizing that you needed to take a bit of a different step, because yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, thank you. I wish there's part of me that like looks at stuff that continues to happen and go, you know, I was there. I was like I was talking to one of the pretty much the lead national researcher for school shootings, Dr. Peter Langman. Like I had a connection with him, so I could have potentially learned more about his research and gotten in on that. As part of the Interpersonal Violence Committee with the Pennsylvania Psychological Association. So part of me sees stuff and is like, maybe I'll go back to it eventually.
Mhm.
But I think I'm happy enough with where I am now and the, you know, the lives that I'm changing and the people that I'm impacting, the people that actually impact me too, that I can turn on the news and I feel a little crummy about it, but also realize that I'm probably more effective in the role that I'm in right now, you know?
Mhm.
Also, you're working with it sounds like you're working with a lot of younger um, people, and I think like the sooner we can reach them is really important. So
Mhm.
regardless of like when you start, like somebody who's already like kind of like been through a lot, and so like these incidents happen, if you can be that person who kind of steps in before it gets to that point, like you're still doing incredible work, which I'm sure you know that. But
Mhm.
I just hate the fact that you might feel a little bad about it, because I think like it starts with the youth, and if we can like work to get them to be open about their mental health, and because a lot of kids don't realize that they might be having a mental health crisis. So I
Mhm.
think it's important that we continue to do that, and I love that you're doing it, and I love that you love doing it, because that's really important. I don't know if you guys have ever had a teacher who you could tell is just like not in it, like they
Yeah.
don't
Yep.
really like teaching, and so that kind of, especially when you feel that, like the entire class feels it, like kids pick up on things so easily.
Oh, yeah.
um so the fact that you really love it and you are able to speak their language is like incredible. It really is. But before I go on anymore, we would like to know a little bit about um, Games to Grow. Like, can you tell us more about the organization and kind of like what the organization itself does in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Game to Grow is a 501(c)(3), which is a national nonprofit based here in the Seattle, Washington area. They got their start running back in the day, it was called social skills. We like to more thinking of it as social enhancement or social development groups, using Dungeons and Dragons, which is kind of cool because back in the day they were not, I don't want to say stuck, but they were more so isolated in the Seattle area because they were playing in person. They were like getting the kids around a table and like playing together. But due to the pandemic, they were forced online. But what they didn't expect, and kind of the cool thing that came from it, is that suddenly they're like, yeah, well, we can offer this to folks around the world because it's not a therapy group. It's a skills development group, it's a connecting with others group. It's a trying stuff out and seeing how it works kind of group. So it has expanded to reaching over 150 participants all around the world. For the longest time there, they had a wait list that was building faster than they could hire and train therapeutic game masters. We just hired a whole bunch of new folks and we're so excited because we need them desperately. So we can continue growing. One of the things that we're doing now is we are expanding our groups. Recently, we have redone our adult group. So it's more what I believe, since I was part of the people that tried to reframe it, is to have an adult group that focuses on specific skills and is more accessible and attainable for the busy adult. Because a lot of adults just, they can't do an hour and a half for 12 weeks or 16 weeks. That's just too much. We've got too much stuff going on. But we've got a lot of folks that are like, I just want to learn the game. I just want to work on empowerment. I just want to like have this moment where I'm with these people and I want to role play. I want to see what that's like. I want to like challenge myself. And then after, 16 weeks of that, it's like, I never want to do this again. It's like, that's fair. It's a lot of work. So we're expanding our adults program. We also have new expansions that focus on foster youth as well as hospitals, which the hospital program has been awesome. I know Adam Davis, who has run a few of those games, he's one of our executive directors. He's like, oh, he just feels so good at the end of those games. We are also now launching a group for LGBT youth as well, which is just the ability to give folks safe spaces to play, I think is kind of what I'm trying to get at, because that's like all we really want, especially for our groups program, is to expand to reach other people. So I'm also part of clinical services. You don't hear too much about us. We're the fun folks behind the scenes. We're running therapy. We're reaching people on a more individual basis. But the interesting thing is that Games to Grow is more than just their direct services. We have a training program which teaches folks to use games intentionally. So most of it's typically focused on Dungeons and Dragons, but it's about how do we play these games in a way that makes everyone feel safe, fosters good communication, and allows us to feel like we are engaging either youth or other folks in a way that impacts them positively.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. Like it's so interesting to hear about like all the different ways that you're working within the space while also kind of, reaching out a little bit. A question that I was wondering about is like, especially when you're training or when you are, acting as the therapeutic dungeon master, does the approach to being a dungeon master change if you know that you're kind of going at it at a certain angle, or is like the training a bit different? Like, how is the process of actually being a therapeutic dungeon master versus just a regular game of D&D? Well,
Oh,
quote unquote.
yeah. Oh, for sure. I think one of the things that we try to do is we've got this concept of what's our goal and what are the goals of the kiddos that are there? What are the goals of the folks that are there? And then how do we approach the goals from a way that is intentional and helpful? And then also is incorporated into gameplay or is incorporated in how the players play with each other. So for instance, I've got some folks that they really want to work on empowerment stuff. They've got anxiety, they can't stand up for themselves. So in a typical D&D game, like with my friends, if I give them a jerk NPC, which is non-playable character, I'm assuming everyone who listens to your podcast probably knows that.
If you don't now, you do.
Yeah.
So if they have a jerk NPC that's just like really trying to give them a hard time, I'm giving them a hard time to challenge them or to like play this like really jerk character. But for the most part, there's no real goal to that other than to challenge. For my women's group that I ran for the longest time, it was about, okay, you're going to have a character that's really going to push on you. And you said that you want to learn how to either push back or advocate for yourself. So this is the opportunity to do that. And I don't say that. They just have this character that comes up and refuses to give them information and starts questioning them about why they're there. It like starts talking down to them a little bit. And it's kind of interesting to watch them kind of be like, aha, this is the moment that I need to probably do something about this. Or, for instance, in some of my younger groups, if there ends up being a conflict amongst themselves, it's about asking questions to challenge their perspective. Or after some time, can the group do that themselves? So there is a kiddo that's like, you know what? That's a really dumb thought. Why would you do that? To have another kid go, okay, I understand you don't agree with this, but don't you think there's a better way to talk about it? And
Right.
just to see the group eventually self-regulating and self-working through problems is ultimately one of the goals. And typically when kiddos move on or leave, that's like the skill set that they end up with. And it's all through gameplay, and it's all through intentional questions on our end, or prompts, or characters that we've set up, or situations that are complex and might not necessarily seem like anything on the front, but they're learning to navigate their expectations and regulation skills.
Fascinating. Cool. Thank you.
One of my questions is, how long do these like gameplay sessions usually last? Like, do they last for months? Do they because I know we've talked to some therapists who do them within their school system, like their school therapists.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I didn't remember to ask that, but is it like a year thing? Is it like, and how do you know which kids come in? Like, does the principal set it up? Like, how is that all set up within the school that doesn't have a program like that?
Well, I can't necessarily speak for schools, but for us, since we're an outside entity, typically either people are referred to us or people contact us themselves because they've heard of us through some other means. And we have a team of folks that they decide to do like intakes to a certain extent, which is just talking with the parent and going, well, what do you want? Or talking with the person going, well, what do you think your kiddo can get from this? What makes you interested? And then sometimes the kiddo can get brought in to ask their own questions and to discuss what they like and potentially don't like about it. And then from there, they look at the broad range of us and all of our fun groups, figure out what schedules might work for them, and then they talk with us facilitators directly about it. And then, do you think this kiddo would be a good fit for your group? So to answer the first question, we've got 4 quarters. Summer split up into 2 sessions just because everyone's on vacation. So like, for instance, one of my guys, he is on vacation for summer A, so I won't see him for a few weeks, but I'll see him again in summer B. So it's about 4 quarters. I think they range from 10 to 14 weeks based on the season and whatever holidays are kind of surrounding it. And typically we check in. Are you coming back? Yes, no. If it's a yes, the group just kind of continues as it is. So when I started doing my teenage boys group, I took it over from another facilitator. I had all 4 of his original kids for the first quarter. Then I lost one because of schedule changing. I gained someone new. And now I'm going into summer A. I'm losing 2 kids due to vacation. And then I've got someone else slotted in just temporarily. So it kind of goes in that kind of cyclical motion for all of us.
Got it. So do you just integrate the? I've not played D&D. I've gone to some sessions, but I will admit that I did not pay very close attention after I created my character. If you have kids leave and then you bring new kids in, do you just integrate their characters into an ongoing story that's already happening?
I give them that option.
Okay. So if they're like, I don't want to do this story, like, how do you do that? Do you find another group for them, or do you kind of like make something just for them?
It all depends. If they don't necessarily like the story that they're coming into, it's kind of investigating why. Well, I came from another group and I really like the fact that they're like a bit space agey. Like, for instance, Michael, our director of groups, he does a lot of space related stuff. I love my dragons and fantasy, so I might not be the best fit. But if it's just more of like I'm integrating, I don't understand the storyline, I don't understand what's going on, it's integrating the character in a way they don't have to know what's going on. and then continuing the story in a way in which they already feel like they're being incorporated into it. Some folks like to come with characters from other games, which is fine. Some folks like to come and be like, no, you know what? New game, new character. I'm going to be a totally new person. And then like taking that one-on-one time to help to integrate them. So when I got a new player recently, I spent an hour with him before he joined. And what's your character? You know, this is what the world looks like. This is kind of the things you'll run into in the world. This is kind of the climate of it. You know, what kind of a character do you think you want to play? And sitting and helping them create that. So they're already kind of prepped coming into it.
Okay, that's awesome. It makes
That's
me want to do it. It makes me want to like play. I used to role play a long time ago, but not with D&D. It was like on, this is definitely dating myself, but it was on MIRC where it was just text-based role play. Yeah, I
Oh,
know. Yeah, so you guys are like, "What?" Doesn't matter where it was. Anyways, so it was just text-based RP, and I don't know if you guys do you guys remember Titan AE? It was a Don Bluth animated movie. Basically, the world got destroyed, and they created another one. Oh my god! Okay, so watch
sorry.
it. It's such a good, like, Don Bluth has such good movies. Do you guys know who Don Bluth is? Okay, he did Thumbelina. He did Anastasia.
thank you,
Oh,
Amelia. High
okay,
five.
okay,
At least
yes,
I'm
I
not
know
alone. Usually
Anastasia.
I'm the only one
Yeah,
sitting
The
here like,
Secret of Nim. He did like Five Goes West. Anyway, he did a movie called Titan AE, and so we took the storyline from that and like created our own world and our own characters. So I used to like role play with that, and I used to role play on Second Life, which is like a social like platform or whatever. And like I role played at like Hogwarts Sim, and like it's just nice to integrate yourself into a story. But the more that you talk about this, I realized like I would play very specific types of characters who weren't necessarily who I was, but who like I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I wanted to be. And like I, to this day, I don't know why I played those characters, but I love the fact that like maybe one day I'll get into D&D and I'll figure out like what is going on with Destiny and these characters that she's playing. But I love that you're able to facilitate that for, I guess I want to say it's not so strict, it's more casual, and it's not only that it's a safe place, but it's very accessible. So when you're talking about, they don't have to come into a story if they don't like that story, or if they
Yeah.
want to bring characters from another story, or if they just want to create a completely new character. And the fact that you as a game master or any of the other facilitators have the skill to where they can bring them in and they don't feel left out, or they don't feel like they're interrupting anything. And I know that's probably like a skill I've never even thought about, but it's really important when you're thinking about children, because children don't want to feel left out. They don't want to feel
Mm-hmm.
like the odd man out. So that's really, really cool. I know I don't want to feel like the odd man left out. So definitely when I join when one day when I do D&D. But another question I wanted to go with while I put my headphones back in so I can hear you guys. Can you tell us a little bit about Geeks Like Us?
Oh
Because
yeah.
I think that's how I discovered you, was through Geeks Like Us. Sorry, I
Yeah.
couldn't get it in. Okay, it's in now. I swear to God, today has just been a crazy morning, and I'm trying to sit here and be cool and have this like amazing like God, yeah, no,
conversation.
it's I'm so sorry, Amelia. I'm usually
Oh,
not
all
this
good.
bad. I'm usually not this bad. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit about Geeks Like Us?
Oh yeah. So Geeks Like Us is actually kind of how I got my start in all of this. Adam and Adam played on Geeks Like Us's clinical role, which was a D&D group with a bunch of clinicians that were also therapeutic game masters. So that's actually how I like was introduced to them and how I got to know them. So I think that that kind of helped me like live my dream of working for them one day. But Geeks Like Us is more of just a nerdy community. And I think we're technically considered a media company where our whole goal is to encourage people's unapologetic enthusiasm and to cultivate, turning passions into careers, which I think you all talked with Ryan, who was like,
Yes, Ryan is. the best. He's so funny.
Between
so
him
funny.
and Megan, it's like Megan's a calm. So two of our co-founders, Dr. Megan Connell and Dr. Ryan Kelly, go like they mesh together super well, but then they're both totally different people.
They are so different.
They are
Like their
completely
vibe,
different.
because we interviewed both of them.
Yeah.
We interviewed Megan for our mental health power up series,
Mhm.
and no, for both of them. Yeah, we
Yeah, they're
interviewed
both.
both of them for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but you're
so
right. They're very different, but they do work together very well. But they're very different.
It's
But I
wild,
love it.
especially now that I'm on a podcast with both of them. So I'm the community manager, which the true thing is that I do typical community manager stuff. I make sure everyone feels comfortable in the community. I run the Discord, which is a little dead right now because GLU's on a bit of a hiatus for the summer because we're all teachers and therapists. And by the time June hits, we're all like, oh no.
Right.
My unofficial job title, which is more of a joke, is that I keep Ryan in line. So if I would have been able to make it on, if I would have been able to make it in March or whatever that was when he initially came on with you all, that joke definitely would have shown up more than once because he's the one to say stuff like totally outrageous, and I'm sitting here like, oh no, and then he sees my face.
We loved it though. If you guys go, if our listeners go and listen to that, like go back and listen to that podcast. I don't know which one it is, but Matt can link it at the bottom. You will see what she means by she has to like rein him in. Because my face, some of the stuff he said, I was like, but I loved it. I loved how just open and like he's hilarious.
We made a whole joke at one point that so our version of the board of directors, we call it the round table, and it got to the point that we started doing what was called an HR tracker, that if we had an HR person and if we took Ryan and some of the stuff that he says seriously, that it would be an HR complaint. I as community manager had the HR tracker where I started tallying, and I think we got up to like 9 instances of something in one meeting. And I'm like, Ryan, Ryan, this isn't good. But it's all in good fun. And he's him and Megan, and honestly the rest of the team, Dr. Emery Daniel, Zach Hartzman, who does with Hey Listen, Randall Hampton, who does like a lot of art stuff, and he's amazing. Just the whole team of people, they're awesome. So for us right now, we are focused on building more content that we feel like is connecting. So for instance, our show on Tuesday, Lord du Jour, they have like their own little like fan base, which we call the Heathens, because Emery streams Bloodborne, and this is my first time ever seeing a Dark Souls game. So I'm like watching this Bloodborne. They're like, oh yeah, well, if you give this brooch to this kid, such and such happens, and then a pig eats something, and I'm like, oh my god!
Yeah.
And the cat like freaking out. So I started calling all of them heathens, and then that's kind of how that got started. And then, Zach, when he's back from having his teacher break, which he absolutely deserves right now, he like does games and talks about how he uses them in the classroom. And Randall has people on where he talks about how they're unapologetically enthusiastic in draws, and Clinical Role will eventually be back with a new cast and a new setup, and our podcasts are just chaos. I'm unfortunately responsible for them, which is why they're a little backed up right now, but they're chaos and it's good fun connecting with everyone. So I think our hope is to continue to maybe not just cultivate the Geeks Like Us community, but cultivate the community around geekdom in general. I like going into smaller streamers and like hyping them up. If we have the ability to raid, I like raiding people and letting them know that like we'll bring people to you, even if like we're not necessarily expecting it to be reciprocated back, because cultivating smaller streamers and smaller communities just helps us all enjoy things together. And that's kind of how I've started taking my role at Geeks Like Us.
I love that. And honestly, I think it's great that you guys like just live within your truth. And if anybody is the spokesperson for living within their truth and just being comfortable with who they are, it is definitely Dr. Ryan Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
oh yes,
listen, I walked away from that being like, man, like I need to be more open with myself. But I honestly think that like on the podcast, I am very much myself, regardless of like whoever's on. but that's also really cool, like just being able to be yourself. And I think that's something that people can take away. Like I know self-esteem issues is something that a lot of people struggle with, and especially as you're growing up and you're coming into your own. And I love that you have such a diverse group of people that you're working with, and they're all doing different things. I think that's really
Mhm.
important, because, like I said, representation matters. And seeing people doing the things that you love and being successful in doing those things is so, so important. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last question I'm going to ask you, unless Matt has a question, because I couldn't
I
tell
did
if
have a
he started
question.
like raising his hand like weirdly. Yes, Matt.
Thank you. Hi, Matt from the press pool. The question I had was that, especially doing the work that you're doing with Geeks Like Us and kind of handling the community management, working in the podcast and the streamer space, I feel like there is a lot of pressure put on people in the space to kind of keep creating content, to keep streaming,
Mhm.
to keep doing this, and to keep pushing forward. How do you take care of yourself in those moments, and what advice can you give to the content creation community at large for taking a little bit more care of themselves in this space? Because I feel like we're all very good at talking about it, but I don't know if everyone is as good as actually following their own advice, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, I love this question, being the therapist and then also a community manager and in this space, and also working with streamers and being like self-care and then being like, how do I do self-care? I love this question. I think the big thing is stuff that I tell some of my smaller streamer friends, seeing how some of my bigger streamer friends have burnt out like hardcore,
Mhm.
is that yes, you are the content. Yes, if you don't stream or put out content, that might potentially mean one less payday. That might mean losing people. But at the end of the day, which is one of the reasons why our podcasts are backed up, sorry, Ryan and Megan, is if you're not putting what you want to into it, and if you're not feeling at least a little bit of joy from it. You don't have to feel spark and so much overflowing creativity, Just like I said, I like my job, but that doesn't mean I'm not sitting here going like about Monday. If you're still not feeling something from it and something good from it, then you're just going to continue to like kind of grind yourself into the ground. So like for instance, for me, that means I like audio editing. I enjoy listening back to the episode where Ryan goes on about I'm not even gonna say it.
No, please
Just
do. No, please
he
do.
goes
No,
on about
no. What do you
something.
mean?
Oh
Listen,
my God, what does he go on about? You can't do that.
question: what is this rated?
Oh, we
Whatever
curse
we
all
want
the
it to
fucking
be.
time. We're cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think was it Muppets porn? I think it was
Muppet
Muppets
porn.
porn.
Is
That
that
I
seems,
think,
that's a thing. If somebody's thought
yeah,
of it, it's definitely a thing.
and I mean, like,
yeah,
I feel like Ryan would know.
yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
think
ask him.
no
I'm gonna
Looney
message
Tunes.
him.
It was
Looney
Looney
Tune
Tunes
porn.
porn. Yes, he was trying to tell. He was trying to explain Randall's secret side hustle, which is not that, by the way. Randall does not do that. Randall went with the flow, but his face got increasingly concerned as we were talking. So like I enjoy listening to Ryan go on her rant about that, and I enjoy like there's something therapeutic about like cutting stuff and laughing. I love it.
Oh my
Listen,
God. Wait,
Randall's a fun guy,
was Ryan
but
the one who brought up the dinosaur romance novels, or was that somebody else?
That was somebody else. That was
Okay. It doesn't matter
oh
who it
my god.
was. It doesn't matter.
as-
It doesn't matter. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Randall's a fun guy, but just like I said, I think as soon as he was like, no, like, and then you went to this expo and this person offered you money and you're like, well, this is weird, but I'm gonna do it. And Randall's face just keeps like dropping and he's like kind of half smiling, like trying to go along with the joke. And I'm like sitting here like, oh God, we're about to lose our artist. So I enjoy reliving those moments and I enjoy it. There's something different about editing and all of that type of stuff, but gosh darn, it's going to continue to make me not want to do it if I'm doing it when I'm not feeling right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I owe the
Self-care.
Geeks Like Us community an amnesia stream that I haven't been able to do because I've been juggling my work-life balance and all of that type of stuff. That stream's going to be significantly less enjoyable for myself and for the community if I feel like that I am playing a horror game and hating every minute of it more than I
Right.
already would, So what's the point of subjecting yourself and the people that you care about to not even like subpar content, just subjecting all of yourselves to stuff that's not going to feel as fun and authentic. If just for money or just for the hustle or just for any of that, which we all know is a lie. I'm
Mhm.
definitely team anti-hustle camp. So
Yeah.
sorry, friends.
No, that's good. I'm glad that you brought that up because the whole grind
Hmm.
mentality is just like it's so terrible, and so many people do it, living paycheck to paycheck and
Yeah.
staying stuck in jobs that they absolutely hate. And that's something that I had to learn to step away from, like when I moved away from Korea and I like quit that job. It was such a relief. It was oh
Yeah.
god. So and now I'm doing something that I actually like, but now I have to learn again to like do that work balance, right? So I'm glad that Matt, that was a great question.
I high five
That was a,
myself for good with
that
it.
was a good question. All right,
Thank you.
so jumping and wait, do you have any other questions, Matt?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay,
I
all right.
sit back down.
Okay, wonderful. So jumping into our last question, and we always ask our guests this because we like to tie it back to mental health. Is there a game or a form of social media that you've played or that has helped you through a hard time? So, for
Hmm.
example, I used to play Streets of Rage 2 specifically when I was having a bad day because I just could come home and beat the shit out of people, and it just made me feel really good. Not that I wanted to beat the shit out of people in real life. Like sometimes I did, but I didn't because I played the game. So, is there anything like a game or like a book series or anything like that that's helped you through a hard time?
Um, so my very first year of my doctoral program, which is actually probably the worst time for me to get back into video games, let's be honest. Um, uh, we're learning about psychological testing, which I now do through Game to Grow as well. But I think learning it was not fun for me. It's a lot of like psychometrics and like math, and no thanks,
Mm,
says my brain. This is why
mhm.
you're a therapist. So I got Skyrim. And I will admit I'm a late Skyrim adopter. I think this was 2016 or something like that. And I was like, let me try this game. And boy, oh boy, did it suck me in like no one's business. And of course, that's like most people's stories with Skyrim. Um, so Skyrim brought me back into my love of gaming. It was there for me. It was a really hard first year of a doctoral program. Like it was kind of the way the doctoral experience was for me. It was like, if you think about schools as steps, high school to college was a step, college to master's was actually just like a smaller step for me personally. But then what happened was I like got on an elevator, like a top, like not even like in the elevator. I got like on the top part of the elevator to the doctoral program, and it like hit the ceiling with me in between the elevator and the ceiling. So that
It
was the
sounds
doctoral
very
program for
violent.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first year and a half, I think, were just like it was a huge slog. Because then even after that year of testing, we went to statistics. Once again, can't math. No math.
No math.
You know
So
what? I just
Team
wanted to
no
say
math.
something really quick.
yeah,
It's so funny how many people choose careers based on the fact that they don't want to do any math.
right.
Like it's like that's
Yep.
why I became an artist because I didn't want to do math, and then like I had to do 3D stuff, and then I realized that there's math in 3D, and I was like, you tricked me.
Yeah,
Got me
right.
good. Yep.
That
Right.
was one. That was one of the unfortunate things about going into psych. It was like, yes, no more math. What do you mean stats? Hold on,
Yep.
Yes.
hold on.
Yes.
What? No, no.
Yeah. My stats professor became my best friend in the doctoral program because, when you're that high of a level of education, you can't like get below a B or something like that. So I was at
Right.
his office all the time. I was like, hey,
I
you
live
got
here
like
now.
2 hours.
Yeah.
um, but so Skyrim, I think, was the biggest one, which kind of introduced me to the larger like idea of open world RPGs and what they've become. So my second one is The Witcher.
Nice.
I when I moved out, so I'm originally from. Oh, I love The Witcher.
So much.
When I originally started The Witcher, I was kind of iffy about it because it didn't have the same feel as Skyrim, and I was kind of looking for that.
Mhm.
I went
Hmm.
back to it because it's The Witcher. But I actually
As
ended
you
up
do.
playing the expansion Blood and Wine during the pandemic.
Yes. Oh my god, their
Nice.
expansions are so dope. Blood and Wine is my
There.
favorite. Blood and
So
Wine is my
Regis is over my shoulder.
favorite.
Because I fell in love with his character through the expansion. And then when I realized he was a book character, I was like, I must read the books now. So I played Blood and Wine during the pandemic. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then I moved all the way over here to Washington State. And what helped me kind of adjust to living on my own for the first time in a while and, being in this new space where I don't have so many of my supports in a pandemic, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
was I listened to all 8 of the Witcher novels.
Nice.
And then I started playing the second game. And so it was kind of like The Witcher was there for me through the pandemic and kind of helped me along. So those would be my 2, Skyrim in the grad school and then The Witcher during the pandemic. And I think The Witcher's kind of stuck as being like my core thing now.
Amazing.
So Dr. Rachel Cohort likes to talk about her love of The Witcher. And I'm like, I do too, but for different reasons. I like a very minor character and I'm obsessed with him.
He's such a good character though. He just is such a good character. And like, he really is like, girl, it's like, not, I won't say crutch, but like his voice of reason in so many like incidents, which I think is really incredible because like if we go back to like therapy, like he is, like I said, he is the voice of reason that kind of like helps girl like get through what's going on, which is wild because he's a vampire and you wouldn't think that because every other vampire seems to be fucking insane in that game. Every other one. But
well, and that's one of the things I like about him is a while ago we wanted to submit a panel to PAX and never ended up happening. Maybe I'll do it eventually. Is thinking about healthy male representation in games. I don't think I've ever found a character as healthy as Regis. Because he shows his love. He shows his love for other male characters. He shows empathy. He admits when he is having mixed feelings about other characters, and then does his best to acknowledge that they exist, but then also seek reason at the same time. Due to his addiction, it's a really healthy conversation about I'm not willing to try it again despite being in a new form because of what that caused me. It's just, there's a lot of healthy about Regis, even just in the expansion.
You're right, because I immediately thought of Kratos and I was like, he's not healthy at all. I just love him. So, but no, thank you for sharing those 2 games. I obviously am a huge Witcher fan. And I know like when you said like you listened to all 8 books, there was a bit of a hesitation, like that's a bit much. But I literally, because I couldn't play the games at the time that I wanted to play them, I watched somebody over like a year and a half period play the game. Like I binged the episodes. Like I would come home from work and like Matt would be like, hey, let's go out. And I'd be like, no, I'm really tired. And then like sit there and watch like 3 hours of this guy play like The Witcher. So I get it. Once you find something you really love, like you just go all in. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it because that is also a form of self-care. And I love that you talked about that it happened during the pandemic. And for you, that's what helped you get through all of that. Because I know the pandemic was really hard for all of us. It was the first time we had ever experienced anything on that level. But yeah, I think that's it. But before we end the show, if people want to find more about you, about the organizations you work with, can you drop those socials for us? And then we'll definitely have them posted down below like we always do. But we just want to hear your lovely voice again. So where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I myself am Wandering Shrink on Twitter. I debated doing the whole getting a professional Twitter thing like Dr. Ryan and like so many other lovely humans that I know, but I am very stubborn and stuck to my brand. So Wandering Shrink, it is going to be me for the rest of my life. So that's where you can find me on Twitter. I'm not tweeting a whole lot of my own thoughts right now for some reason. I just think because Twitter's like more of a dumpster fire than normal. So I think I like scroll through, I like people's positive stuff, and then I like get out. But to find my 2 organizations, my work is Game to Grow. You can find Game to Grow at Game and then TO and Grow, not the number 2, that's someone else, on Twitter. You can also find us at gametogrow.org. And for geeks like us, we are geeks with 3s as E's in geeks, like us. That these are definitely going to be ones you're going to appreciate having down in the, I'm going to borrow a term and say doobly-doo of the podcast.
Thank you. And Matt, do you have any closing statements?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us, Dr. Amelia. It was a pleasure having you. It was a lot of fun talking to you. I hope you come back and join us again in the future. As for myself, you can find me over on Twitter at burnout_Matt. You can find us, as always, over here at youtube.com/burnoutbrighter. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that bell so you get those notifications and stuff. And you can also find me every week over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, where I host the PlayStation Drive, which is all things PlayStation all the time.
Yeah, you can find Matt at all those places.
Yeah.
You can find me here. You can find me over at Twitter at DMBC32, where I'm usually just talking shit about my own life and spiders and like posting memes. You can also find us really, really soon over at Level 1 Gaming, where we're going to be hosting a podcast called Bonus Level, bringing on people, bringing on developers, obviously bringing on people. What was that? Bringing on developers, content creators, just to have a good time. It's very low key, and I would love to have Amelia and Ryan on that show, because that would be incredible. So please know that you're definitely invited to that. I am so excited to see how you navigate what he's going to be saying, because that show is very, very different. It is meant to be
chaos.
Absolutely silly and chaotic. So I'm down for that. But where else can you find me? I don't know. Just look for me. You'll find me places. And with that, I want to say thank you, Amelia. You're always welcome back. And yeah, I think that's going to be the end of our episode. So guys, thank you for always following us. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for listening. And please like, share, subscribe. We will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Peace.
What is this? Oh, 146.
Well, this will be 146.
Hey.
Dun, dun.
Every time it gets more and more grandiose.